When you're a military daughter or spouse, you're always on high alert for that knock on the door. You know, we do a Widows Week for veterans, and so we're talking right now about, you know, Widows Week for law enforcement. To be able to be on the playground and know that your dad died the same way and that there is not anyone else in this world that understands you the way the people right here on this ranch do.
All right, welcome out to God and Country. We're here live at location here at Warrior Rizen Ranch, which is a ranch that specializes in helping veterans and first responders and recovery. We are here with Erica Schlichte, who manages the location and has essentially kind of put it together. Erica, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
This place is absolutely gorgeous and it's huge. So how many acres do you guys have here total?
It's about almost 6,500.
6,500 acres.
Yes.
And then annually, how many people do you think come here and participate in what you guys have put together?
We currently operate in the summer because that's when the kids are out of school, and we're a very much family operation. And so when we invite these veterans or law enforcement officers, we're having them bring their kids. So the summertime works the best. And right now we're doing 4 weeks, and so we probably have about 25 families a summer. And at this point we've served about 150 families since starting. Wow. And
what year did you guys start? When was that?
We took our first set of families in 2020.
So just going on your fifth season here.
Yes.
Then.
Yep.
Do you have several families here at the same time, or just one family at a time?
Yes, so we separate them by weeks, and so if it's a wounded veteran week, then every family that week, about 5 to 6 families at a time, are going to be in that category. So every veteran will be in the category of having some kind of injury, whether it's seen or unseen, and then they will be bringing their spouse and children. And then we might have a different week where it's Gold Star, and so we will have the widows of a veteran who has died by suicide or killed in action, and we do separate those weeks. So we try to keep it really specific so that everyone who's there that week, those 5 to 6 families, have all been through the same experience and can really relate to each other, and that really contributes to the healing process to know that.
I can't imagine how well that works, because the biggest thing they struggle with is that, do you understand me?
Right.
And building that camaraderie. So
exactly.
Putting that many families together, I bet you they have continuous relationship now and just correspond with each other.
A lot of them do, yeah, and I love that, and I keep in touch with a lot of them. So yeah, being able to come here, and not just the veterans to have that camaraderie, but also the wives or the husbands or the children, to be able to be on the playground and know that your dad died the same way, and that there is not anyone else in this world that understands you the way the people right here on this ranch do at that time. It creates a space of healing that can't be created. I remember there was, right after we pulled out of Afghanistan, there were a lot of widows that were struggling with, you know, did my husband die for nothing? And they reached out and said, we just need somewhere to be right now. And I said, pack your bags. We didn't really have anything planned, but we just welcomed them and had them all stay here. And it wasn't even during our usual time in the summer, it was a winter thing, but we brought them out and just gave them somewhere to be and somewhere to feel what they were feeling, and to be able to talk to each other and get through what they were going through. And so yeah, I agree. Beautiful. The reunions are miraculous in and of themselves.
One of the things I learned growing up as a kid, and particularly in Scouts, was to be prepared. And particularly when it comes to my feet. You do not want to be out in a situation where your feet are incredibly uncomfortable and makes you absolutely miserable, makes the rest of the day absolutely miserable. So you have to go out there in the right equipment, whether that's hiking in the mountains, whether that's fishing on the stream, it's working out in your garden or out in the yard, or it's going out on the town or to the nearest rodeo in a nice pair of boots. You have to go out prepared so you look good, feel good, and most importantly, it is comfortable. Because again, there's nothing like being miserable walking around all day long. We want to introduce you to 3 different companies that are supporting this channel. We have Durango Boots, which provides the best Western wear and boots that money can buy. So you'll have the look, the feel that you want. There's also Rocky Boots for that great mountain wear, that hiking wear, and just getting out into nature and being prepared for what you're confronting. And then there's Mucky Boots or Muck Boots, which will provide the perfect waterproofing that you need for fishing, hunting, and again, getting out in the yard and working in the mud. These are great companies that supply a great pair of boots for you for any need, for any occasion. So again, go to the link in our description or click on the QR code that's coming up on your screen for any of these great sites, whether it's Western wear, whether it's the outdoor wear and getting up into the hills and the mountains, or whether it's muck wear that you need to be able to work around the garden or go fishing or hunting and not walk around with wet feet. These are great products at great prices that will keep you perfectly comfortable all day at the same time that you're looking good. So trust these products, whether it's Durango, whether it's Muck Boots, or whether it's Rocky Mountain Boots or Rocky Boots, and go to those sites using the link in our description or QR code that's popping up on your screen. Again, the link in the description or QR code that's popping up on your screen, and support our channel. Going through what they've gone through, and not only focusing on just the veteran themselves, but on the family, many people just neglect what the family's gone through, especially those families that lost that loved one. People just don't understand what that is. I mean, people have a lot of death in life and then car accidents and cancer and all that kind of stuff, but to lose somebody in action is just a whole different feeling, and people really just don't understand that. And as much as we want to give them our sympathies, and it doesn't hit. And they appreciate the sympathies, but they just don't feel that relation. So bringing them out here and having it so everybody here has gone through the same thing, and they have multiple shoulders to cry on. I can't imagine the uplifting and just the self-esteem that increases, the emotional increase, everything that just is so impactful to what they're going through.
It's true. I mean, I can plan all the activities I want during the day, but I have seen that the most healing tends to happen around the fire pit when it's the end of the day and the kids are in bed and the adults are all sitting around, and that's when they're really opening up, and a lot of that healing is something that I couldn't put on a schedule and I couldn't force to happen. It's totally organic.
Well, just being able to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And people don't like talking about it, especially in front of people who don't understand. Because they're not there to entertain you, and that most often these type of stories are entertainment, right?
Yeah. Not to mention, there could be a lot of things about their death that they're struggling with. There could be a lot of anger. There could be a lot of what ifs, and just different feelings that go around the situation. They could be angry at the military. They could be angry at, their husband. There are different feelings that they're going to feel that they may not feel safe in other environments, because everyone's like, your husband's a hero, and they see them as heroes as well, but not everybody understands everything that went into it or all the sacrifices that may have led up to it. And so
the things they witnessed and saw also, we have no knowledge of. We
can't. Yeah, that's definitely multifaceted.
And then you also do first responders.
Yes, so we just recently started doing law enforcement officers. About 3 years ago, we took our first set, and now it's just become every summer. We actually have 2 full weeks, and we also only do those in Utah. So with our veterans and our widows, they're from all over the country, and we fly them in, but we knew that there was no reason to look anywhere else for law enforcement because we have them all around us here in Utah. And so that's a cool thing where we get to work with the chiefs, and they are selecting people who have been through traumatic experiences or may have things going on in their lives, you know, family-wise, things that have basically elected them to come and have this experience, and they need the healing that we
With
offer.
the recent tragedies we've had here in Utah.
Well, we had the 2 officers that just passed in Tremont.
Our hearts
and just
go out to those families. Absolutely.
Shot down just going up this house. Do you think you might pull those families in?
We are already in the talks of, you know, we do a Widows Week for veterans, and so we're talking right now about, you know, Widows Week for law enforcement, and is that something that they would be interested in? You know, it's interesting with law enforcement, I always say they're kind of in their Vietnam era, and so when we reach out to them, sometimes they're hesitant to come and have this experience because they're not used to receiving the accolades and the, you know, the trips and the different things that are more common with our veterans. And so their responses have been interesting, that they're almost a little hesitant and nervous, like, well, what's, you know, I don't want my name out there. I don't want to be, you know, they already have targets on their back. And so that's something we've had to work around, and, you know, just trying to get our name out there to let them know that this is a safe place and this is somewhere they can come for healing.
Well, let's go back and find out how this whole thing started.
Okay.
So, kind of tell us where you grew up and what the family life was like.
Okay. I'm from North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina. My dad was stationed at Fort Bragg. Unlike most military families who move around a lot, our situation was a little bit different, where we stayed there almost exclusively and my dad left. So I would say my dad was gone about 9 months out of every year. He was Delta Force, and that was just the life that I knew. So I don't know how to compare it to any other life, but I look back with very positive memories, very close to both my parents, and it was a great childhood.
Well, Delta Force is equivalent, if not higher than Navy SEALs. I mean, most people will talk about the Navy SEALs of being the best of the best, but people don't realize that there's a step above Navy SEALs, and that's usually Delta.
The quiet professionals.
The quiet professionals. They're the ones that you really don't talk about, or don't talk about what they've done or where they've been. So
there's a lot of times where we say, oh, the war is over, everybody's out. There's a lot of families still sending their soldiers, and that's one of them. And so, yeah. But after September 11th happened, my dad transferred over to the private sector and was doing contract work, and then eventually made his way to the CIA. And while there, he was a contractor, and in 2012, on Easter Sunday, he was blown up by a grenade, and he had shrapnel enter his head and sever both of his optic nerves, so he was blinded instantly. He was pulled out of that situation, brought to Walter Reed, and had lots of surgeries performed, and they saved his life, but he is 100% blind now. And so that's something that's been a little interesting to navigate with, you know, my hero who could do everything in the world, who now has this disability, and living with that disability, and all of us adjusting around it.
He probably doesn't consider very much of a disability, knowing the mentality of Delta Force. He is probably just trying to get through
there
that.
are times where he finds it very annoying, but no, when you talk to him, he has a very positive attitude, that he's just grateful to be alive, and he knows that that's the miracle.
Going from the skill level that Delta Force legitimately has to where you're blind was probably pretty tough for him for a while. And
losing that mobility of driving,
adjusting.
Yes, but he went straight back to work. He remarried just before that to Sarah Carter, who's previously a Fox News correspondent. They met in Afghanistan, and she's been an amazing partner for him to, you know, the patience she has, and he's very supportive of her career.
Did she get married after he was blind?
No, they got married before. Mm-hmm. Yep. So
So
she's
she
stuck
went
by his
through
side.
the missions.
Yes. Yep. And that was also a life she was very accustomed to as well, because she was a war correspondent. So she was also very much aware of, what these guys had been through. And so I think there was a lot of connection that way. And so.
Because most of the missions, they can't even talk about.
Correct.
They can't. Not with her, not with anybody.
I did not find out about the details behind his injury until about 2 years ago. It was all redacted.
Really?
And so, I know I don't know 100%, but I know a lot more than I used to.
How did you and your family, the kid, your siblings, how did you react with and deal to finding out that he'd been injured?
I was actually on a mission for the LDS Church. I was living in Armenia, and I just had the mission president came in at like 9 o'clock at night. And when you're a military daughter or spouse, you're always on high alert for that knock on the door. And so I think part of me knew, and I knew he was deployed at the time. He and I were in constant communication through email. And so when he came and he told me, it's something you just always prepare for. But I was able to call him and to talk to him. And I remember, and my dad's not that religious of a person, but I remember saying, should I come home and, let's get through this, be a part of the healing and everything. And I remember him saying, you need to stay there and serve those people, because I just know that I'm going to receive the blessings for your service. And I
That's
just
some faith right there for
really
someone that
loved
doesn't
that. Loved hearing
believe in
that
God
from
very
him.
much.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and he raised me that way as well, to be someone who believes in God and to have that kind of faith. And so I'm grateful for that.
I'm sure he was praying many times when he's on missions.
Yeah.
People come to meet and have a
Yes.
good relationship with God when there are those type of circumstances.
Absolutely.
Is the information released on where he was and what he was doing when that happened?
It is not, unfortunately.
So you guys knew that his eyes were injured, but you don't know where it happened or how it happened.
I knew it was in Afghanistan. That was all I knew, was what country it was in. So, but he was flown to Germany and then to DC. He was there for obviously many, many months before he was able to go back. And then, just began that healing process and getting used to.
So he probably had many missions throughout Afghanistan and Iraq, probably.
Oh, yes. He was in the military. I'm embarrassed that I don't even know the number, but far more than 20 years before he got out and then did contract work. So, yeah, it's been his whole life.
Was he CIA at the time this happened, or was he military? He was CIA at the time.
He was CIA, yes. Yep.
So not necessarily kicking doors or anything else like that, like he used to do as a Delta, but he was probably in something
It was a gun battle. I do know that.
It was a gun battle.
Yes. And I know that even after he was hit by a grenade, that he stayed and he fought. He just assumed he was going to die, and he stayed and he kept directing and he kept fighting, and that he had to be pulled out by his interpreter. Those are most of the details that I know.
What a hero.
Wow.
He is a hero.
So did the interpreter survive?
Mm-hmm. There were a lot of heroes that day on that team.
The hardest thing about the whole Afghanistan pullout were those interpreters.
Yeah.
They were just
A lot
the
of people
camaraderie that they had with our U.S. soldiers, and then just abandoned them.
100%. A lot of people don't realize that. And there were a lot of people that he was helping after him and Sarah were trying to help after they came back to be able to get out of that situation, because they were enemies of the states, in that country. And so
they know who they were. I know, there's a lot of special forces now that are putting together entire operations, and people like Glenn Beck are donating to it and literally going over there and finding these people and getting them out so that they
That's
don't
amazing.
have
I
those
love to hear that.
repercussions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them doing that. The other part about the Afghanistan pullout is like what you were saying, when you've sacrificed everything and you've got people who've died or have lost limbs over there, and then to see how we pulled out, and then ISIS has the country anyway.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we just wasted 20 years.
Yeah.
We just wasted billions of dollars.
It was a
A
terrible
lot
move.
of lives
Yeah.
for literally just no reason at all. Because
Yeah, that's how it felt.
what did we gain?
Yeah, it was a
Just
terrible move.
Horrific pullout. And then almost the same thing happened in Iraq.
Yep. Yeah, so fast forward, I met my husband in Fort Bragg. I was living there before my mission and before my dad got blown up, and he was going through the Q course for Special Forces. And so he and I met, and when I got back from my mission, we got engaged to get married. And then that's when his dad, John Schlichte, and my dad met. And so my dad was blind at that time when they met. And John, who is our founder of Warrior Rizen, was preparing to climb Denali for the first time at that point. He's done it since multiple times, but at that point he wanted to climb it. And when he met my dad, he invited him to climb it with him. And so that was something.
He's going to climb it blind. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and they ended up getting Scotty Smiley, who's another blind veteran. And I can't remember how many total people were on that climb, but I remember the joke was that there were more eyes that didn't work than that did, because there really weren't that many people that were there that had two eyeballs. And so they called it blind strength, and that was just a really cool thing that they did to go up and to do that. You know, it took a long time of training, and I love that piece of our history of how they
That
came
feeling
together.
of accomplishment to be able
Yeah.
to do that blind has got to be a phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he got, pretty high up there and was like, guys, just tell me we're there and I'll believe you. Let's just call it a day. When you're blind, every step you take is you tense your entire body preparing for a fall or, something. And so.
Yeah, because you got rocks and dirt that are not exactly stable.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You don't know what you're putting your feet on, or if it's going to move out from underneath you, and you're just kind of winging it as you go up there.
Yeah, but John, encouraged everyone, and he got everyone together, and that's just who John Schlichte is. And so it's no surprise to me that, we've been able to build the ranch and the foundation. So shortly after that, he sold the company that he'd spent, forever building, and he bought this land with it. And
So what was that company? What did he do to?
he was an insurance broker for businesses. It was called Presidio, and it was in Salt Lake City, and it was really successful, and it was bought out
Had to
by
have been very
Gallagher.
successful to be able to
Yes.
invest into something like this.
Yep. So, and that's it. He wanted to invest for the future, rather than just, money can only take you so far and it goes away fast, but land and opportunities and service, those are the things that he's instilled in his kids and our family. And so, it was a great vision. So I love to be a part of it.
So how was it for you to marry into military again? I mean, you grew up with that.
So John also has a military background. He was a ranger. So we're a very special ops heavy family.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is special ops. And
Yes.
it's hard.
It
When you
doesn't
grew up
seem
in
like an
special ops.
accident that
No.
two great fathers, two great families, and their children meet.
For sure. Great minds
So what
come
was going
together.
through your mind of marrying into special ops again when you grew
Well,
up
I
with
already
it?
knew what I was getting myself into, and I don't think I could have accepted, a white collar 9-to-5 at that time. He's since gotten out and has gone that direction, but yeah, I think at the time I just was so used to it, and so he immediately started deploying, and he was with 19th Group here in Utah, my husband Josh, and yeah, that was just the norm. Having babies and sending them off and bringing them back, and
Going out
his
to the
family was
airport,
very
seeing
supportive.
them off on the plane and all that.
Seeing him off and welcoming him home with the signs. Yep, that's just what we do.
How many years did you do that before he got out?
He was in 16 years, and we were married for, I want to say, 8 of those. And so, and then together for the 2 years before that. So yeah, almost 10 years that we were used to that life.
That's quite the life, and people don't understand that either, because you're sending them off, and
Oh yeah,
It's just another
and he
normal
could be
day.
going to one country 1 minute, and then 1 week before he leaves, it could be a different country, and you just have to roll with it. And so
At least you knew which country he was going to, because
yes,
sometimes they
that I
don't even tell you
appreciate.
that much.
And things are so different. I remember with my dad, it was landlines. So if you missed his call, you missed his call, and you might not hear from him for another week, because they were using satellite phones. And so I actually considered myself very lucky. We had cell phones, and we could communicate pretty often. Even when he was in the middle of nowhere, Africa, he had service. So yeah, we did a lot of.
That's crazy. You had service in nowhere Africa, though.
Yeah.
That's.
So yeah, but we also had the first 2 years of our relationship were me gone, living in Armenia, and so we were very used to communicating in a lot of different ways and not necessarily being around each other. So I felt like it contributed to a really great marriage, that platform.
And how many kids do you guys have?
So we have 4 kids. Yep, 10 to 4.
10 to 4. So
Yep,
you got
all
elementary
young.
and
Yes. Yep.
not quite
5th
junior
grade
high.
down to
Yeah.
preschool. Yeah.
That's got to be fun as a mother as well. So you're doing that as well as trying to manage this at the same
Yes.
time. That keeps you busy as a mother.
It does, but I'm also really lucky because I can bring my kids out here.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect that I was just talking to my son last night about how grateful I am that in the summer times he gives up 4 weeks of his summer to come out here and be with these families because, they get a little nervous when they first arrive and they don't know each other and he's used to it. And so he
Breaks the ice a
comes
little bit.
in and breaks the ice and says, hello, here's the games. Let me take you on a razor ride, and so I'm just grateful that they have that opportunity to do so much service.
He probably brings the other kids in really well too.
Yeah, they all do. And so that's just really, we're the lucky ones to be able to be a part of it.
So take us through the brainstorm of
Yes. So
Warrior
like I
Rizen.
said, John was a ranger. He actually won the best ranger competition, which is a huge accomplishment. He won it with his brother, the only brother pair to ever win that competition. So John always had the vision when he bought this property that we would be running some kind of family-oriented nonprofit. And so about 4 years after we first purchased the land and we just started building all the all the buildings and everything, we got the lodge really close, and then it was 2020 and everything hit.
Everything locked
and we
down.
were so excited and prepared to start this journey. We're like, do we push it off another year? And that's when I brought my dad and Sarah in for the first time, and I did a week with them and got a lot of good feedback. But we still were like, here we are just twiddling our thumbs. Everything's ready for these families. And so I started contacting a couple of people in Utah about Gold Star families. Who are they? Are there some in Utah? Just trying to find them and figure out the interest. And lo and behold, I got like 10 families that were all interested. So I ended up having 2 different weeks that year, and they came happily unmasked, if I can say that.
Yeah.
And
I never masked. I mean,
yeah, so
Yeah.
they came out, and one of the families was Jenny Taylor. If you know Jenny, her husband was the mayor of North Ogden, was killed in a green on blue in Afghanistan. She's done amazing things since his passing, but they were one of the families that came, and we had a lot that came, and it was a beautiful summer, and that was when I knew that we were doing what we were supposed to do. The way things just fell into place. And
so did he buy this with that completely in mind, or did that develop some?
Nope,
way
it was
up?
always the intention. So if you look at the lodge, the way it's built, a lot of people always say, like, why isn't it bigger for weddings, or why isn't this? It's exactly what it was always supposed to be. It has just enough space we didn't want to invite too many families at the same time because we want it to be intimate. And so, we have 2 big vans. We pick people up from the airport in, and so that's kind of our max on number of people. And, it's ADA compliant, so a lot of the sinks are a little weird and the beds are a little shorter. And, it's just the way it's supposed to be for what we wanted to do. And so, yeah, that was always the plan. It's also still a working ranch, so John runs cows on the property. We have a lot of horses and chickens, but it always needed to be a working ranch for them to be able to come to a ranch. And
Yeah.
so
These families actually work the ranch when they come.
Yep. So that is why we have to keep this ranch running year round, so that when they come, it's still a working ranch. And so, yeah, when they come, I have a schedule that they follow. And when they wake up in the morning, the animals have to eat before they do. And so we separate the families. They go by family to different animals. So one family might be doing the chickens one morning, one family might be doing the pigs. And they go in and they're feeding and collecting eggs and learning about how to, if that's something that interests them, how could they take that skill home? And, we love the homesteading idea. And so, also trying to teach them that this is something they can be self-sufficient at home with. And so, yeah, every morning they wake up.
Do you ever
and do
get
their chores.
resistance? Maybe the teenage kids are there and they don't want to work.
Good question. The first thing people say when they get here is, where are all the TVs? But usually after day one, I never hear that question again. I never have anyone saying, I wish I could just watch TV. We keep them very busy. And once they get outside and they realize how healing it is out here, they don't want to be anywhere else. And sometimes, but John is actually really good about, another aspect of the ranch is that we are a service mission site. So we have a lot of service missionaries here that are maybe coming home from their mission early or couldn't go for whatever reason. So they're here also learning ranch skills. And so John likes to pull those teenagers out and put them to work with the missionaries and have them in tractors, fencing, things that they might be a little more interested in. So we're flexible. We can do whatever. If we've got little babies, we bring in childcare, so then the parents are really getting the full experience as well and feeling like...
Yeah, because a lot of kids have never known hard work, and then when they feel the accomplishment that comes with...
Mm-hmm. I've had kids tell me their favorite part was the service project, which I thought was shocking because I just, it's something we want them to be a part of, but I didn't know they'd enjoy it so much.
Well, there's nothing other than manual labor that really kind of gives you a sense of accomplishment. Like,
Yes.
I did that, I accomplished that. And a lot of people don't realize that vacations are fun and just sitting and relaxing and unwinding is needed, but just getting down and just working is probably the best therapy that you can have. That's probably what's helping people so much.
Yeah, and a lot of these soldiers are coming off of being medically retired or, retiring for whatever reason and, with injuries, but they've lost their everyday hard work that they were doing. And so a lot of them are trying to figure that out, and that contributes to the mental health that they're going through as well. And so they love to come out and then show their family, like,
I can still do this.
Yes, I can still do this, and also you guys can do this too. And so
it's probably harder for the kids because kids, they get stunted and they're just afraid to do anything when they go through some trauma like that or see the trauma. Sometimes it's whether they lost a father or they see a father like yours that all of a sudden just is completely debilitated and just different. And it's what do I do with that as a kid? And then when they see, no, they're still working, they can still accomplish stuff, and not only that, but I can too.
Yeah. There's a lot of one interesting. A lot of widows say to me is, the kids. A lot of people want to say to whoever their oldest son is, you're the man of the house now, and they're always like, no, he's not. He's still a kid, and I can still provide him with opportunities. And so this is something where they can come, and one of the first things we do is take them fishing. And so that's one of my favorite stories is a widow from Utah who was fishing with her 2 boys, and she just had tears in her eyes, and she said, this is something my husband always wanted to teach him but never could because he was constantly deployed. And now I just feel so accomplished that here I am, like, you taught me and now I'm teaching them, and just having this experience of like catching a fish. And I don't know, I think it's just one of those things that you think you have to do with your kids, and it brings so much joy. And I don't know why it was such a lasting impression on me, but it changed their life. And they were...
And you guys are 10 minutes from the lake.
Well, we actually have our own creek that runs along the property.
Yeah, you guys take them right through the creek and go fishing in the creek.
This is Uriah Kennedy from God and Country, and I've been fishing since I was just a little boy. My father used to get me out there and teach me how to tie little fishing knots, And whether it was creek fishing in a stream or we were out trolling on a lake, there's nothing more beautiful than reeling in a big bass or big trout. As fathers, we want our children to have the greatest experiences when out on the water. And we ourselves do not want to get skunked when we're out there fishing. So it is always best to have the best equipment, the best lures possible to give you the greatest percentage of success. We all have used and know who Rapala is, one of the greatest companies ever to create lures for fishing. We would ask you that you would go to our description and click on the link in our description or on the QR code that's coming up on your screen. Support the channel by going through our link or through our QR code and making all your fishing purchases at Rapala. There is nothing better than pulling in that big fish, and you can do that through any of the lures that you'll find up on Rapala. There is nothing like the quality that you will find at Rapala. From all their lures that will definitely get you some good hits on that line, to any type of tools, knives, clothing and apparel, anything you'll possibly need to have a great afternoon, a great day out there on the lake or out on the river. Trust Rapala for all those fishing needs. And again, you have to go through our description, our code in the description, or the QR code that's going to be popping up here on your screen. Again, support this channel by going to Rapala through the link in our description or the QR code that's popping up on your screen.
How did you learn what therapies and what things would work and how
Good
to deal
question.
with different reactions?
Yeah, so I just kind of guessed, and I looked at our property and said, you know, what do we have access to? So I did try different things. And then I also looked at what volunteers do I have access to, because I can't teach everything and I can't do everything. And so I had a lot of people that were talking to me about fishing and like, if you ever need a guide, you know, like we love to fish. And so that was kind of how the fishing started. And then the same thing with archery. We had someone who just offered their services. And I said, well, let's just see if the families would like to do that. So we went and bought all the gear, and so that's something we do as well as recurve bow archery. And so that's just kind of a fun hobby where they can learn it and something they can take home with them, you know, with dad or mom to be able to do whenever they're at home. And just something fun that you don't normally do at home.
Well, some of these kids might grow up in the city too, and just being
Or on base.
outside.
Yep. Being on base, you know, it's a totally different situation. Everything is cookie cutter and brown, and you know, there's just not these wide open spaces. And so, yeah, being able to do a lot of the things that you can do in wide open spaces has been part of the therapy. You know, there's the mental therapy this side with a therapist in a room where they're talking, and then there's the rec therapy, the outdoor therapy with the horses and the different activities that, you know, again, I just plan the activity and then the healing comes organically.
So how did that role get put on you? I mean, you have your father-in-law that put the whole thing together. So how
Yes.
did that land on your shoulders?
So I had just had my second child, and he was putting everything together with the ranch, knew he wanted to do the nonprofit. And I think he knew my background with my dad. And we had actually been on a trip. Task Force Dagger is another amazing nonprofit, and they had invited my dad to come and do this diving trip down in Key West. And so I went with my husband. I mean, they brought the whole family out, and I thought, what nonprofit does this? They brought the whole family out, and it was such a cool experience. And I'm good friends with the guy that runs it, and I call him all the time, like, you know, give me advice on this and that. And so that was something that I had a little bit of a background in. And so my father-in-law just asked if that was something I was interested in trying to get up and running. And I'm just the type of person that says, sure, I'll just figure it out later how to do it. And we
I
did.
would have loved to have jumped into something like this, because I mean it's always been a soft spot in my heart is the veterans and those that served us. So you can't say
it's
no
a
to that.
win-win. But I'm, you know, we're very grateful and lucky because not all nonprofits get to start out with a founder like John, who was able to, him and Barb, his wife, my mother-in-law, funded everything from the beginning. And so we were able to jumpstart a lot faster, and it was something where we got to spend a couple years doing the project before I had to go to start the fundraising, and I was able to show people how it worked and the impact it was having. And that's just a lot more powerful than an idea sometimes.
Yeah, when it's actually up and running and people can see that it's doing, it's pretty,
and that we have a lot of
easier.
skin in the game. Time and money. So that was kind of the birth of it all.
How did you approach the idea of having the service missionaries serve here?
That was just one of my neighbors who her dad was diagnosed with cancer, and she wanted to serve a mission, but she didn't want to leave him just in case. And so she was doing a couple things with the elementary school, and she told me she was really interested in gardening, and we have these 2 amazing greenhouses. And I said, well, if you want, you could come out here and serve. I don't see why not. And then it was like mission presidents were coming out, and all of a sudden word was getting out, and then everybody was like, I want to be at the ranch, I get a walkie-talkie and drive a side-by-side.
When we toured a couple months ago, my friend Todd DeBell, afterwards I realized, he's like, I went back, I've been volunteering.
Really? Oh wow, that's awesome. Well, that's what, honestly, when you're here, I have a lot of people call me and they say, I want to volunteer, tell me when. And it just ends up like talking a lot. And I always tell them, like, you just need to show up and everything else will just happen. Because once you're here and you see it, like, that's when your heart is changed. And so that's my biggest recommendation is, like, just come. We're always open to.
You're walking the faith walk.
Yeah.
As you.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
People have been coming. And there's also, we've had a lot of volunteers who they were here for years before we knew that they were struggling so much. And, we found out later that, some of the things they were going through, and they told us, how the ranch saved them. That was never our intention. Our intention was just to provide an opportunity, but a lot of broken people find their way here for healing. And that's exactly what this place, it's God's country.
It is God's country.
Yep.
We like that.
Yep.
And it is incredibly peaceful, and it's wide open spaces out here.
Yep.
You probably have a lot of people from around the country that haven't seen mountains.
I know. I hadn't until I came here. And so, I thought the Appalachian Mountains were mountains.
No, we call them
my
the
husband always
Appalachian
called them hills.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, the mountains, the wide openness, the wild animals. You walk on the property, you're going to see elk and deer and porcupines and just really cool stuff that, you think only exists on Yellowstone or other TV shows. But
yeah, for sure.
We're living it in real
How much
life.
of the ranch and your service has actually provided you healing?
For me personally, I think I didn't realize how much it was helping me because I'm the type of person that I want to do something when something is wrong. I want to fix it. I'm a fixer. And I don't think I realized how much my dad's injury was affecting me emotionally. And my husband being gone. Like, I say it was easy, but really, I think I might have just been pushing it down a little.
It's not easy.
And so when I started bringing the families out and getting to talk to them, it provided a lot of healing for me to be able to feel like I was helping fix them. And in turn, it was fixing me. And so I've never really thought about that, to be honest. But yeah, I think that there were a lot of things that I just said were normal and that was just the way it was, and you just move on. But it was able to really, not to mention the therapists, and I take full advantage of them as well for myself, because I'm not going to put it on other people and not, walk the walk as well. The therapy we provide is incredible. So a lot of people may have heard of EMDR. So that's the therapy with the eye movement. Mm-hmm. So we provide a therapy called ART. So it's accelerated resolution therapy. A lot like EMDR, but more accelerated. Because I only have them for 1 week at a time, I need to be able to get quick impact with the therapy. I don't want to send them home and say, okay, you need 10 more sessions. Good luck. I want to make sure they're going home a lot better than they came. And so we had an employee working at the ranch who had told me about a therapist that had really helped him through the death of his father. And I always thought, no way is this amazing therapist right here, available, like willing to come, and I just kept putting it off. But if there's one thing I've learned with running a nonprofit, it's that when you're doing what God wants you to do, things just fall into place. It's not a coincidence. It's not something you should fight. It's just something you go with. And so I had him come out one time, and again, I had him come and do my dad to test it on him. And my dad is very, wasn't doing therapy and did have a lot of PTSD that he wasn't addressing. And he said it was life-changing for him. He felt like his level of stress was at like a 9. And so any small trigger would take him to a 10. Whereas when he did the therapy, it took his baseline way down to like a 2. And so now he has all that buffer before he's, and that's what PTSD is it's that constant exposure to these high stressful situations, and they get you in that fight or flight, and then you're constantly in it. And so that's what that ART does it does a lot of things, but that was what it did for him. I loved hearing that. And the most amazing thing about it was that he had 2 sessions, and he didn't need any more than that. He does go back like once a year for, just some revisiting of things, but it's not like talk therapy where you need it every single week.
So
It's
kind of
very
explain
trauma-based.
exactly what that does and how it works.
Ooh, I wish I had Kent here. Kent Allen is our main therapist, and he would be able to explain it better than me. But the way I understand it is that and I know because I've done it, but you follow a ball or a finger or whatever it is, and you're going back and forth, and it's replicating what happens when you sleep. So you go into REM, rapid eye movement, which is where your eyes are going back and forth. That releases a lot of hormones that cause peace and different things to allow you to sleep. And so when you go
melatonin, probably oxytocin.
Yep, all those, serotonin. So once you get those hormones going through your body, he goes back into memories. And so let's say if there's a traumatic incident, I'll give you an example. I had a woman who was qualified to come and did our program. She brought her husband and her kids. They were both veterans, but it was actually her service that qualified them to come. She had been one of the first in Afghanistan when they were setting everything up. So nothing is there. And when the Rangers come in, I don't know if I want to go so much into it, but basically there were a lot of traumatic smells that she had to endure. They were burning a lot of things, a lot of different things. And she got to the point where she couldn't even eat meat anymore. And so she did this therapy, and he was able to go in, and it doesn't change your memory, but it changes the emotions that are tied to that memory. And so he was able to change what they were burning into, I think they did Legos, because that was something that she related to. And I remember her coming out of that session, and she hadn't eaten meat in like 10 years. And she was like, I feel like I could go to the store right now and buy chicken. Like, she's like, I don't know the last time that I ever thought that thought.
Couldn't take the smell of it. Yeah. So while she was in REM, did they actually burn a Legos or something like that? No,
it's all like just part of the process.
Thought process changing.
Yeah, he slowly goes in and changes one thing about the memory, and then another, and you see it like a movie in your mind.
Is he just talking to them?
He's talking to her. And one cool thing about it is a lot of people don't want to talk about what they've seen or gone through, and you don't have to. You can go through the memory, and then he'll say, I need you to make this small change. He'll prompt you, and so you can make small changes, and you're changing, again, the emotion that's tied to that memory. And so it's no longer fear or whatever. Now it's curiosity, or, as you change small details about it.
Bring down the adrenaline a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's crazy because you still have that memory, that things still happen to you. It's not hypnosis, but your body is no longer tying it to these fight or flight emotions. And so I've probably butchered that. I'm sure someone will
No, I think
comment
that
and
explains
say,
it well enough for people to understand. Because
Yeah.
if you can get
you just
out
have to do it. That's what I have to say.
if you can get out of fight or flight, then the PTSD can come down.
Yeah.
Because that's
Exactly.
what it is and causes that.
Yeah, so I highly recommend it for anyone who's been through a traumatic incident. I've had my own kids go in, and it really is just a life-saving treatment.
With here, I mean, there's very, very few programs out there that can actually bring in the entire family. Most veteran programs are just for the veteran because they're barely bringing in enough money in just to get the veterans out there and just treat the veterans. But very unique to have the entire family come in, wife and the kids.
Yep.
They're the lost, neglected
Yes.
that have gone through the same trauma. So was that always the plan as well, as to bring, because you obviously experienced that when you went down
Yeah, I
to
think
Florida. So
John also saw that they were kind of going through, you know, with his wife and kids, and then with his son and us. And I think he saw the family and how it was affected. And so that was always the plan. So we are a little bit different because not only do we do the whole family, but also we're an actual place where people come. A lot of nonprofits raise money and then find other nonprofits to give the money to, or to send the veteran to, that kind of thing. So we are an actual location, and then yes, we do the whole family. And that's something I wouldn't change about our program,
no, I wouldn't
because
change it either. Yeah.
it's so impactful. These guys have been deploying their entire careers, or if they're law enforcement, they're constantly leaving their family. The last thing they want to do is go on a trip and leave their family. And so that's one thing that gets a lot more people to say yes to us, is because they get to bring their whole family, and it's all expenses paid. And, you know, for them to be able to come out here and they don't have to budget it, and they don't have to stress, I'm going to book their flights for them. You know, I'm going to take care of everything once they're here. We have a private chef who does all their meals. You know, it's hopefully an easy decision for them to come and to be able to get all the things that we offer. And so, yeah, that's a non-negotiable for us, is the family has to be part of it.
Well, I can't imagine how many kids that you affect, because I mean, kids sometimes look like they're okay and they act like they're okay because they're trying to toughen up, because they don't want to put any more stress on mom and dad, because they already see there's enough stress there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some families that take the injuries really well and mom and dad grow closer together, but there's some that don't take them very well, and mom and dad's relationship is strained, and it verge of divorce, or some of them do get divorced because of one of the spouses just can't handle it anymore and just got it. And they feel like escaping from it's the only solution, which just makes it worse in the long run. But so that the kids really try to toughen up and just kind of subconsciously not be the extra stress factor. So being able to come to something like this together with the whole family and just to be able to let go.
Yeah. When they're here, they are kids. They are on the playground. They are doing the activities. They do not have any responsibilities, you know, other
I
than
can
like
see
their
the
chores.
kids wanting to run all this equipment.
Oh yeah, they run wild. You know, they're constantly wanting to feed the horses and
It's
just
every
go and
little
be a
boy's
part of
dream
it.
to sit behind
Ride
that wheel.
in the tractors. Oh yeah, we make sure we get them in all the big tractors.
Yeah, we got this nice tractor sitting behind me. That's pretty cool.
Yep, lots of tractors. Yeah, I agree. The kids are heavily impacted by everything that goes on, and a lot of it does cause strain on the relationships. I can't tell you how many couples have left and then maybe a year later contact me and said, our marriage was at the end. It was on the last string. But coming there, having that environment, talking to other people, and then going through the therapy, all the things together got them through it. And they were able to heal and understand each other. I mean, I know how these military guys are, and they don't want to talk about their feelings and their emotions, but once you get them all together and then one of them lets down their guard, and then they're all letting down their guard, and suddenly the wife is seeing another side of them, there's just so much that goes into it. But for them to be able to take that new baseline and go home with it, it has changed a lot of lives.
Well, I see, because I'm around a lot of veterans a lot of the time, and what I see most often is when the man comes home and he's been through what he's coming through, he's used to sharing that with his brothers,
Yeah.
his fellow soldiers, because they understand they've been there. And when they come home, they don't feel like they can share it with their wife because they're afraid that that's just going to put an extra stress on their wife.
Yeah.
And make it so that they're not the protector anymore. And when they don't feel like they're the protector, then the wife sees them as less of a protector, then it stresses her out because she's now afraid. And so they're afraid that it's going to strain the relationship more the more that they share. So they're afraid to open up.
Yeah. Same with law enforcement.
And then the wife gets upset because they're not sharing their feelings, but yet he's probably right. Is if she did know everything, she probably would feel less safe and probably a little more stressed out a lot of the time. So it has to come out in the right environment.
Yeah.
It has to come out in the right environment. So when they come here and there's 5 other soldiers who have gone through what he's gone through, and he can now open up essentially to them who understand it, but then the women are present so they can hear at the same time. It creates an environment.
An opening, yeah.
An opening to where all of a sudden everybody can understand it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's where the healing process comes through.
I remember a family that came, and I think they were actually interviewed by KSL, and you can find that on our her but this is the same one who had a lot of success with the therapy, but her and her husband were both in the military. And when they interviewed her, she said that they had never talked about their jobs with each other. They completely compartmentalized that side of their life. And so when they came home, it was just their family. Wow. And they'd never, and they just retired. So they must have both been in at least 20 years. And so, but through the therapy, that was the recommendation, was to be able to talk about things like that. And she just said it was a game changer in their marriage, to break down those walls and be able to talk with each other about what was going on, because she had just as many crazy stories as he did, but they just didn't talk about it because I think they both had that feeling of like, I don't want to bring my work home. I don't want to stress you out because you already have your own stuff going on, that kind of thing. And
it's hard to find a safe environment in your day-to-day life to be able to do what you can accomplish here, where you're away from the regular stresses and it becomes a safe and peaceful place where your heart knows when it's the right time.
It's exactly true. And that was one of the recommendations my dad gave me. So I had him come and do the program first, and I remember I made some changes. Well, his biggest thing was, you've planned too many things. We need time to just sit and think and interact with each other, some downtime. Where I was like, oh, they're gonna be bored. I don't want them to be sitting around, But then as I found out, that was when the healing started happening, was they have fun doing the activities, but then they sit down and they start talking to each other. And so whether it's to their spouse or to, another family or to their kids. And so really good advice.
Well, getting them out of their homes, sometimes out of their state, out of their city.
Yes.
When you're not in your normal environment, a lot of times that breaks it down so where now you can open up even further.
Absolutely.
When you're in some places that familiar, it's really, really hard.
Yep.
Because there's too many memories there too. And you got to put those memories aside, all the family memories aside, and just focus on, okay, I got to open up with this trauma or else it's going to eat the family apart. And getting into a completely new environment can actually help do that.
Another thing is that we are a dry nonprofit, so when they come here, we don't serve alcohol and we don't allow it. And that was kind of controversial at first, whether we were going to do that. We would have people ask beforehand. And what we found was that you don't know what the person in the room next to you is struggling with. And so whether it's something that you don't struggle with and it's something that you can handle, I didn't want to create a thorn in my safe environment where they felt like everything was great except for I was I really wanted, that, or that was something I couldn't stop thinking about because the person next to me, or whatever it was. And I've had a lot of spouses thank me for having a week where it wasn't something that was even part of the equation. And so that's just something.
Well, you got to get rid of all the crutches.
Yeah.
And alcohol too many times is a crutch. And then it goes from alcohol to drugs to something else that's addictive.
It's an artificial way to give you the safe and the relax. People say, oh, that helps me relax. But it's an artificial way to do that.
And again, we're focused on the family healing together, not an individual, numbing or whatever the situation is. And so for us, that was just something that worked really well. And so, that's something that's also a big part of who we are.
Alcoholics you could have there, or how bad it could be, or.
Oh, I hear about it afterwards. And so
sometimes people get into alcohol and they become very abusive, and so that strains relationships.
Yep. So that is something that I felt very prompted, and the family, our whole family felt prompted that should be a part of our program, and so that is. So that's another piece of us. And then
cleans the mind, cleans the heart.
Yep. We're very into any kind of modalities that we feel like will bring healing. There's a couple different nonprofits I'm hoping to partner with, and we're open to partnering with, that want to bring in different things that we're open to trying, like the cold plunges and the heat, the sweat lodges, just different things. Like, we believe in a holistic healing for sure, your mind and your heart and your body, and it's all connected. And so that's just something that's who we are, is being able to constantly adjust. What is the research saying is helping, and so let's try that. And I like that our family runs this, and so we can do whatever we want.
That's really
Have you ever had a situation where you thought, I'm not going to get through to this particular family, this particular individual, and at the end, maybe it happened?
Yeah. We had a triple amputee come, and he was the nicest guy. I mean, he didn't have barriers up emotionally. He was willing to befriend everyone. He just didn't really want to participate. He wanted to send, his kids off, whatever. He wanted them to be a part of it, but they didn't want to come here without him, so it was kind of this, how are we going to get him? And I remember I was really encouraging him to do the therapy, and he was, joking and putting it off. And then finally I was like, but really, we're going to do this. Like, you have to. And I don't like to tell people they have to do things, but I just felt so strongly that it was going to be really good for him. And so he did. I said, you don't even have to talk about your feelings. Just go in and meet my therapist. And he went in and he came out and he said, I can't believe I almost didn't do that. And everything changed. And he was the one that, God speaks.
Yeah.
On what day? Where was that in the process?
I want to say it was like day 3 or something, because I remember we got a bunch of guys in here, and he was putting off going on the horse, and at the time we didn't have we have a special saddle now for double amputees, but at the time we didn't have it, so we were duct taping him to this saddle.
Literally getting the duct tape
and he was like, let's do it, and he was, he was a good sport. And so all the walls went down, just between the therapy and then just seeing how willing we were to do anything to get him to be a part of what we were doing.
Was one-handing the reins?
One-handed, yeah. He was one-handed with all things. We also have track chairs that any double amputees can use when they're here because of our rough terrain. And so, that was a really cool experience. And he was very open the rest of the trip.
His family must have loved it, seeing him up there.
Yep. His son was.
This is Uriah Kennedy from God and Country, and I grew up around guns. That's something that was just a normal thing. I knew where my father's guns were, and I knew what gun safety was, even from the smallest point as a child. There is nothing that taught me that more than having my own BB gun while growing up. BB guns provide hours of fun for kids and teenagers as well as for adults. But at the same time that it's teaching you great marksmanship, it is also teaching you gun safety in a better and safer way. There's nothing better as a father than to be able to go with my children and teach them the skills of gun safety, gun accuracy, and be able to do it in a fun and inexpensive manner. I've always had a Crossman growing up. Crossmans provide excellent accuracy and a lot of power for a BB gun. There's a lot of different styles to choose from different types of air rifles and pistols, even to fully automatic BB guns and other types of air guns. You need to go to the link in our description or click on the QR code that's coming up on your screen to be able to go to Crossman and make those BB gun purchases, those air rifle purchases. Again, it's going to supply you hours of fun and enjoyment with you and your kids, as well as you as an adult. And BBs are a lot less expensive than actual ammunition. So go to Crossman by using the link in our description or the QR code that's popping up on the screen and enjoy the accuracy, the quality of construction, and the hours of family fun that you will have with these air rifles and BB guns. Again, the link in the description, the QR code that's popping up on your screen, and then support our channel. Thank you.
Did you get any backstory of what caused the triple amputee?
He was in, I can't remember what, he was a ranger, and I can't remember what country he was in, but I know he was in tunnels. It was something to do with tunnels and going in, and you're in a trap situation. And
well, I know Iraq had some tunnels. Most of them were drug tunnels.
Okay.
Because the biggest thing that they were facing over there was not necessarily terrorist organization. It was drug lords.
Yep.
Opium.
Yep.
Opium was the biggest thing over there because it was making the most money. And even though the Muslim religion doesn't believe in any drugs, they believe in the money.
Exactly.
And so they were exporting a pretty significant amount of opium. And so they had tunnels. Lots,
I don't know if that
lots and lots of them.
That was what it was part of. But yeah, he's doing really well. Keep in touch with their family.
He probably got down there in some tunnels and.
Yep. Yeah, there's been some amazing people that have come, and to hear some of their stories, I feel so honored. I mean, I sit around that fireplace and sometimes I just say nothing. I'm just a fly on the wall, and just to be able to hear their experiences. And not everybody gets to learn how our freedom is procured, but
well, nowadays, particularly on the news and throughout the country, there's very, very few that are actually appreciating it.
Yeah.
And abusing it and mocking it.
Right.
And
they still have to go out there and keep protecting it.
Keep protecting it. I mean, there's a lot of socialism going on right now. There's a lot of the burning of the flags going on right now. There's a lot of the United States isn't as good as we think it is type of stuff.
Yeah.
And
everybody against the police.
Everybody looking at the negative side and not bringing in the positives of what really we've brought to this world. Yeah. And that's hard for those who have served and tried to defend it to come home and not feel appreciated. I mean, that was really bad when Vietnam ended.
Right.
And just what society did to those soldiers is horrific. But a lot of that's repeating. I mean, history always repeats itself. And so now it's starting to happen again with what's happening in Israel right now and our soldiers coming home. But most importantly, like what you were saying, our law enforcement, particularly during the Biden administration, everybody was anti-blue, anti-blue. A lot of defund the police, a lot of this stuff. And now with Trump, it's coming back.
Yeah, I hope so. But
well, we've been in a society for so long where we're so blessed and we're so happy that it's just a natural consequence that people don't know or understand. Yeah. We recently had I'd say a patriot for Ukraine, and seeing his patriotism for his country when I asked him, you gonna go back here to the front line from here? And he's like, yeah, maybe. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
He goes, well, I have to protect my country. I have to protect my people. And because they've been living in that kind of life for so long, they're more humble and they're more appreciative. Yeah. And they're willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah. Well, they understand it's a team effort. Because when you start just thinking about yourself, that's when everything falls apart. Yeah. And there's no one to stand behind you if you've only thought about yourself. And so that's what I'm seeing a lot of in this world today.
And Andres went through it. I mean, he was a scout sniper for the Ukrainian army, had a bullet go through both of his legs, shattered his femur. Now he's got a titanium rod for a leg.
Wow.
So that, yeah, he's been through just like a lot of our soldiers,
Yep.
and they're still going through it because that war's not
And
ending.
willing to go
Right.
back and sacrifice his life today.
There's some
Yeah.
real heroes out there.
So how many animals do you have here?
Ooh.
Well, we have the one on our feet.
We've got
so there's this
one dog of about 10, and they're ranch hands, not just pets. We've got about 15 horses, cows anywhere around 2 to 250.
200 to 250 cattle out there.
Chickens, I'd have to go over and count, but there's at least 50 to 75 chickens,
That's a lot.
hundreds of thousands of bees, and we do a beekeeping class when the families are here. It ends up being one
that's
of the
awesome.
favorite activities is teaching them about the bees. Bees are incredible.
Do you guys collect the honey?
Oh yeah, yep.
That's gotta be awesome.
So we have our nonprofit, and then on the other side we have our for-profit, which is the ranch, and so we sell, our local pasture-raised beef, our honey, our eggs. My boys run a little egg business that's local. So yeah, just
Where
kind
do you
of
sell the other things? Where does somebody buy your honey?
just private. Yep, we sell it privately at our concerts. If you just come and talk to us or message us on social
Do you
media.
sell anything over to Higby?
Nope.
Higby
Nope,
honey
he
there?
does his
Oh,
own
does his own thing.
Yep. We have these greenhouses growing a lot of vegetables, which we try to use when the families are here in the summer, but we also donate a lot of stuff to the food bank here in Morgan, or the Catholic food bank that's in Ogden. Yeah, just try and...
You have pigs too?
Oh yes, pigs are seasonal, so we get them in the spring, and then they leave us in the fall. But there's one in my
At
freezer.
least one thing's not year round, right?
Yep.
They're a lot of work. Cattle's a little bit easier to take care of.
Yes, we got some goats, and I think that's everything.
Do people board their horses here?
Yes, so that's another piece is we have an indoor riding arena, and we have a 4-H club that we do for the local school, and then we do horse boarding. And so we have a trainer that works out of here, and a lot of people do board their horses. And yeah, we just kind of figure out all the ways to try and support, because it takes a lot to support our nonprofit. And so
Yeah, quite a bit actually.
yeah, so that's why we actually started doing our annual fundraiser. So I have a gala coming up this October 11th, and that's our main fundraising opportunity is for us to be able to get people together, and I usually get a family or two that have come and done the ranch to tell their story, and then just to be able to kind of see what it is we're doing, and for them to have an opportunity to support us. And so
Where are you holding this gala?
it's going to be at the Baku Indoor Archery Range in Ogden. And you can find the flyer for it on our website as how to buy a table and how to be a part of the auction, that kind of stuff. So it's just a big auction. I hired a cattle auctioneer in true country format, so he's going to be talking real fast and hopefully raising some money for us. And so,
How many times have you? Is this
this
a
will be our
repeat gala?
second one. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we did it last year, had great success, and then this year, and yeah, all the money that we raise goes towards the families. We have no other overhead costs as a nonprofit, which is pretty rare for, But again, that comes down to John and just the way he was able to form the ranch and to be able to fund it, personally.
Because you're flying them in at your cost.
Yes. So we also apply for grants, and we work with other nonprofits to help us be able to do things like that. But yeah, all of it comes from the foundation. So all the therapists, everything, all the activities that we do. And then we just rely really heavily on our volunteers. Like I said, we don't really have staff. We're pretty bare bones when it comes to that. We're frugal. As an operation, we want people donating to know their money is going to help the families and not going towards, expensive websites or, other things that we can just do for cheaper.
Yeah,
ourselves.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So you're in your 5th season now.
Yep.
Let's go season by season here, and
I think actually we just finished our 6th. Yeah, because 2020 And then this one, 2025.
It would be 6 seasons.
Yep.
6 seasons.
And I don't know if you can see on the camera, but on this post behind us, we actually have every family we've ever served has a plaque. And so before they leave, we give them their plaque and they write like a family motto on the back, and then we have them drill it on. So on the left side, the black is all law enforcement, and then on the right, the green is all military. And then if they have the gold stars next to their name, that signifies that their soldier was killed. But yeah, so that's a nice way that we basically put their name on the ranch,
That's
so they know
really
they're
nice.
part
There's
of
a
our
lot
family.
of families up there.
Yeah, and
That
it goes around the
logo's
other side as well.
Amazing on the top. I love that.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
With the hour each end.
So 6 seasons. So let's go season by season. You just tell me some of the experiences you've had, how the seasons have changed year over year and improved, and then the audience, what they really want to see is, well, what are the experiences? What are people coming in like, and what are they leaving like?
Yeah, a lot of people are coming in and maybe they've been to other nonprofits and experienced other similar, like, hunting trip or a fishing trip, things like that. Maybe not necessarily as a family, or maybe they did as a family. But I think one of the things that's different for us is just how much they interact with the other families. And so, they're living in the same lodge together. Everybody has their own individual rooms, but one of the feedbacks I hear is how much they were able to get to know the other families. So that was something that we really wanted to encourage from day one. The first year was just our Gold Stars from Utah. So we had them come in, and the schedule was
So again,
pretty...
the Gold Stars are those who have lost somebody that...
So yes, the technical definition of a Gold Star is that their soldier was killed in action. Sometimes that gets expanded to killed in training accidents, leading up to, deployments, things like that. It can also be due to cancer or other health problems that they got as a result
How about
of
suicide?
So then so that was the first few years was just Gold Star. And then 2 years ago, I just had this prompting to, I think I had seen a news article about 2 different soldiers who had died by suicide in Utah. And I thought, well, I wonder if there are a lot of those. You just don't hear about them. And they don't get invited on a lot of the same trips. And so I reached out to them. It was something they were interested in. And so then I started looking for more. I worked through a lot of different organizations like the USASOC Care Coalition, or SOCOM, so Special Operations, and they send my flyer out to everybody. That's one of the things I struggle with, is finding people, because Big Army doesn't have, an organization.
Have you worked with the VFW or
I have worked with
Wounded
the
Warrior?
VFW, not Wounded Warrior. I mostly work with like Special Forces Foundation or Rangers Lead the Way, like all these organizations who know their people, and they have an email list and they're keeping in contact and they know their stories personally. And so when I reach out to them, they're like, oh, I just got this family. This is their story. I think they'd be a great fit. I also rely heavily on referrals from families who come. And so that's led to a lot of new families. We don't have a hard line for you have to have a Purple Heart or you have to have a leg missing, anything like that. Ours is pretty like if you're referred or if you qualify based on the organization that you're under. If they feel like you are a deserving family, then they will refer you to us and we take their word for it. And we've had really great success with that. And so people can also recommend other people or themselves. And so they can do that through our website, and then they fill out the application, and then we just kind of go over the paperwork and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah.
And so, are you going to lose all your
Not
stuff
yet.
to brain?
Not yet.
No.
Oh yeah, it's not raining. It's starting to rain here, but it's not raining enough for we might have to move, but we'll see.
Okay.
This light sprinkle at this point. And yesterday I was here and it sprinkled for a few seconds and then it stopped.
Yeah. So maybe it'll just go.
Depending on how dark it is. Well, let's go through some of the personal experiences. So give us some examples of those who come in and what they had gone through and how you feel like they've improved on the way out.
Yeah, I had a soldier who came, and he reminded me a lot of my dad, so it wasn't a surprise when I found out they knew each other. This is a small world. It's always a small world. He had worked in similar circles, and he was also very stoic and a little closed off. And so I was really excited for him to get to the therapy, because I knew that I know I'm so confident in how amazing that therapy is. So I remember him going in, and he came out, and he was in there a long time. And I remember I was like, when do I talk to him? Should I wait? And a lot of times when they come out of therapy, they are exhausted, and they usually have to go back and take like a 1 to 2 hour nap. And so we kind of worked that into our schedule. So I remember that night, I kind of said, tell me about the therapy. How did it go? Like, did you feel like it was helpful? And he told me a really cool experience he didn't give me a lot of details about what had happened, but basically he'd been in a situation where he was a survivor and his battle buddy had died in front of him. And somehow in that therapy session, he was able to go back and say goodbye to that person. That was how he chose to change that memory and that emotion that was tied. And he got so emotional, saying that he didn't even know he needed that. And that was something that had been holding him back. I think not everybody understands survivor's guilt. You just assume you're guilty because you feel guilty because you're left alive. But a lot of it was just that he didn't have that closure with that person. And so knowing that therapy was able to be what he needed in that moment, it just reinvigorated me that we were doing what we were supposed to do. And I love hearing those success stories that, again, I can create the program and I can try and make happen what I want to happen, but what's supposed to happen will happen. And so I love that they're able to come in and get what they need, not necessarily what I want.
Well, it's hard
them.
enough as it is to have somebody die in front of you. I know many people have had that happen, but it's even worse to have someone die in front of you violently.
Yeah.
So going back and revisiting that.
And probably never talking about it.
It's got to be one of the toughest things ever for a soldier to go out back and revisit that.
Yeah.
Growing up, my grandpa served on a destroyer in the Navy during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And I did a lot of reports in school because I was always interested in military and patriotic things. And I interviewed him a few times for some school projects, trying to get him to open up. And there's some things that he just would not talk about. Because he saw, and he said, I saw a lot of people die out on his boat. And he was on several of them.
I can't imagine the conditions back then.
Yeah, World War II was just...
Yeah.
He said, they got strafed, or other things would happen, and then he just wouldn't talk about it for a long time. Then my grandpa on my other side served in Vietnam, and he was front lines.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, he actually opened up a little bit and told my dad some of the stories, but he died on my parents' wedding day. Him and my grandma were on their way to my parents' wedding, pulled off the side of the road to fix something with the car.
Oh, no.
Tractor trailer fell asleep at the wheel, hit him head on, killed him instantly, put my grandma and my uncle into the hospital. And a couple of hours later, my parents were getting married.
Oh, my gosh.
It was just horrific. So
you survive all that, and
so I never met him, obviously, because he died before I was born. But then my dad would tell us stories, and he would tell stories about him being in a foxhole, in a trench in Vietnam. And he had an impression. One of his biggest stories was, I was in a foxhole. I had an impression to fix bayonet. He was frozen. I was just huddled down here. I wasn't moving. Everybody was dying around me. I fixed my bayonet, and then I think his lieutenant jumped into the foxhole with him. He says, "Oh, I see you got one." And he was so scared he didn't know it, but there was dead Vietnamese sitting on the end of his bayonet that he had been holding up this whole time.
I mean, he was blinded by
fear,
those fight or flight emotions.
And he had fixed his bayonet just in time.
Wow.
And he said, well, I see you fix bayonets. And he says, well, I thought you yelled it out. And he says, I didn't yell it out, but it's a great idea. And then he yelled it out, fix bayonets. And so he was in experiences that are insane like that. So I come from understanding that it's really, really hard to talk about those type of things. So,
but one thing I want to point out is look at how his experience have changed your life and made you to the person you are. Knowing that that runs through your blood, that's something that we also feel really strongly about. And one of the days we do family history, which is kind of a little bit, people are a little bit like, oh, that's weird that you want us to do this. But it's because of stories like that. We want them to understand how important it is. Maybe it's hard in the moment to talk about it, but if you can write those stories down, you just have no idea how it's going to impact your future generations. And just the patriotism and the pride, that you instill in them, and how important it is if we can show them how to use the family history app, and then all of a sudden they're finding stories that they didn't even know existed that run in their family. And so for them to be able to connect with, especially military or police, to be able to connect with people that came before them that did the same thing, made the same sacrifices, those are bonds that you can't form in this life. You can't with another person. Like, that is your heritage. It's thicker than water. So well,
I can attest to that. I can absolutely attest to that, because we've done a lot of our family history as well, and we've done it back to the Revolutionary War, and I've actually got journal into a few of them. There's like one or two stories of a couple of my ancestors were in the Revolutionary War.
Oh my gosh. I mean, can you imagine? That is gold on paper.
One of my ancestors literally was in the same regiment as George Washington himself.
Wow.
And he's got a few stories. So yeah, it's
amazing. Yeah, it changes you as a person.
In the military. So yeah, my family goes way
Even
back.
if you never met that person, that just becomes part of who you are. And so that is actually a piece that I didn't touch on, but that's something that we do, that we feel really strongly about, and try to send them back with these tools to be able to continue to try and find those connections, or at least start the process of leaving behind those memories for your future generations.
And the kids are going to eat that up, and their grandkids are going to eat it up.
Yep. I love when they go.
Because you can't replace that. You can't ever replace those stories.
Yeah. We have families. I had a family who came in and they did their family history, and they just were up there for hours. And I was like, okay, we got to get the next people in. But when they came down, I mean, they had just found things that they didn't know about, and it just changed them. And they had this vigor for wanting to find out more. And so that was a really cool experience, was for them to be able to find out something that they never would have otherwise, and all they had to do was ask. We just prompted it. Those people were still alive to find things out from and get the tools. It wasn't something they'd thought about. And so, yeah, it's a big piece of it.
Go ahead.
Is faith a part of their stay here? Do you have prayer before meals? Do they have family prayer?
So that was something that we kind of went back and forth with, because we are a very faithful family, and most military people are, that we've found as well. But we were nervous to put it on people and trying to decide where the line was. We did start with prayers when we first started, but then we've since started to be more faithful with our actions and like maybe some of our comments, rather than putting it out there with more of like a prayer. And so obviously we have the missionaries, and they're the ones who, these missionaries, they're here because of these families. That's why they do everything they do. That's why they're helping us keep the ranch running the rest of the year. And so it's so exciting when the families finally get here and they line up every morning ready to take them to do their chores. So these are, these missionaries are the ones that go, and so they're able to kind of have conversations with them about, why are you you're 18 years old, what are you doing working for free, and like doing spiritual messages and telling people about your faith, and so for them to be able to share what they're doing is something that we just allow to happen, again, organically. We don't try and shove anything down anyone's throat, but we obviously have scriptures posted on our signs, and we attribute everything here at the ranch to God and to our faith and service in general. I mean, that's what Christ taught, was to serve your fellow man, and that's all we're doing. And so it's just something we live and we don't hesitate to talk about, but it's not a scheduled part of our program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
But we do have a local guy who runs Cowboy Church here once a month, and so when the families are here, if Cowboy Church is going on, he loves to come invite them to come and hear his message. Yeah. So
I've been to a few of those. Those are fun.
They're great.
A few of those. And, I mean, we're God and country, so the whole purpose of our podcast was to bring together religion and politics, and we keep our podcast very non-denominational. Oil and water. That's one of the reasons. It's controversial, but we wanted to bring that together because you can't have one without the other.
It's
legitimately.
True.
This country was founded under the principles of God.
That's
and
exactly
that He
right.
is the creator. We talked last week that God gave us our rights. The country doesn't give us our rights. The government doesn't give us our rights. We have, we swear oaths to serve and protect this country, our law enforcement, our military, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God. That's an important part. And the vast majority of the military are very, very God-fearing, and it could be 100 different sects or religions that within Christianity, or Judaism or anything else, but there's still a solid belief in God. And without those principles, without those morals and values, it's really hard to stand up for anything.
It's true.
Because like we also said last week, you can't get a moral or value off of a piece of paper or a document, even if it's the Constitution or a law that you're supposed to obey. It comes from a sense of and a belief in God. And a lot of times when families are healing, God's got to step in and do a lot of the healing for them, because again, it's really hard to come back from a lot of these things. And if you don't have that belief in a higher power, sometimes it's very, 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 very hard to heal.
Yeah, we've seen that with a lot of families. I'm amazed. I mean, we get a lot of families that come in and are also very open about their own faiths, and I love to see it, because I definitely see a quicker healing with them, because they recognize where they can all turn to, and it's not every man for himself, and they see the plan and how we're meant to be a family, and how healing together is just part of that plan. And so I love seeing that when the families come, and not all of them are that way, but I definitely notice a greater success rate with those that are.
Yeah, I've always told everybody I'm a huge Sean Ryan fan. Sean Ryan's got probably one of the bigger podcasts out there, and mostly all he talks to are veterans, military. And almost every single one of them that comes in starts talking about their faith in God. And then that's converted Sean Ryan to where he talks about it all the time, and he says, I found God in a lot of things, and I didn't have that belief before. He come in from a drug addict background and all that. And there's a lot of these military people are coming back that have created programs like yours. I know a couple of them up in Washington State, up in Oregon, Montana, and they all have based their programs right off of their belief in God, and they're non-denominational. They just simply claim to be Christian or just Bible, and then
I mean, when you're
really
that happy and you have that much faith inside of you, you just can't help but share it with other people, and the blessings just come. When you look at life more positively, you can't help but see the good things. And so that's what I'm constantly trying to teach my children. They come home and they're like, this bad thing happened at school, and I'm like, okay, now you have to tell me 3 good things that happened, because they're there. You just have to find
If the rest of the country would do that, because that's all we hear about is, we practiced slavery and that's evil, and we did this and we did that, and nobody talks about the positive. I think it was even Tiara that last week that says she was going through some tours in Washington. It was negative. I saw a couple of news reports on the Smithsonian, and then Trump actually went through a couple of the tours of the Smithsonian.
Yeah,
and
it's bad. They changed it.
Yeah.
And it's all
meant
it does.
to entice guilt and shame and
Just points out the negative, everything negative about the country. He says, where's all the positive stuff? And so he's trying to completely change the Smithsonian tours to point out what the country's done well, not just the negative. Yes, we all know that we've come through slavery, but we were the only nation that could have come through slavery because we had the freedoms that we had. We had the freedom of religion, freedom of the press. That's the only thing that brought about abolition. I mean, that was it. So point out the positive, not just the negative. Look at the light that we've been for the rest of the planet.
Yeah.
How the Constitution is spread out, and the vast majority of the constitutions out there are based off of ours.
Yep.
So there's a lot more good in the world than there is evil. But if all you do is point out the evil,
Yeah.
you're going to come out with a lot of depressed people.
Yeah, a lot of depressed people. Yep. It's true.
So kind of go through some additional stories, because as many as you would feel comfortable in sharing with us here.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like they just come to me when, anything in my life happens, and then I'm like, oh,
Well, some of these
talking to my
stories of
kids.
these veterans or police force that have come through, and just kind of tell us what their experiences are, or if they've shared to you where they came from, the injuries they had, how they got injured, and then the healing process. Maybe some of the experiences of the kids or the wives that have come through, and you express that you've had a couple of them say, hey, you saved our marriage.
Yeah. One cool story that I shared with you when you came on the tour was when we had a group of Gold Star widows, and this particular widow, she had not even buried her husband yet. He had been killed in a training accident, or he had died in a training accident, and COVID had hit. And they were telling her that he couldn't have more than, I think it was like 5 people at his wedding, because she wanted him to have his funeral. She wanted him to have a proper burial in Arlington, the proper burial that he deserved as a hero. But if you've ever been to a funeral in Arlington, it takes a lot of people. They've got horses, and they've got people carrying, they've got people with the guns, they make it very special, and there's a lot of people involved. Well, they told her basically that wasn't going to happen because of COVID, and she said, well, put him on ice, because I'm going to wait until we can get what he deserves. She's amazing. And so she came out, and I remember I can only imagine what her husband's died 5 months before. He's still not buried. She's going through COVID. She's got 2 kids. And she comes out to the ranch with a smile on her face. Just the positivity we were just talking about. That's absolutely her. And we were in the riding arena, and I remember they let all the horses out. And when you first let them out, they get the zoomies, and they're running around. And I remember she was not someone who had a history of riding horses, and she looked at me and she was like, we are never going to ride these horses. These are wild horses. And I was like, they're not wild. They're just getting all their energy out. And she's like, I'm not riding one of those horses. That's crazy. And then we just kind of sat there waiting, and we had an equine therapist there that was kind of facilitating everything. And over time, the horses stopped running and they started walking, and then they started coming towards the people, because horses, they're herd animals. They want to be by the people. They want to, stand there and just cuddle up to you a lot of times. And so that was what they did. They came over to her and they just stood next to her, so still and calm and peaceful. And she just had tears running down her face. And I was like, are you okay? You don't have to do it if you don't want, if you're scared. And she just said, no, it's not that. She's like, I can't believe how many emotions I've felt in the last 10 minutes. She's like, I just thought watching these horses, it reminded me of my life and just how chaotic my life feels right now. Nothing is in my control. Everything is just happening to me instead of me being in charge. And here I am left with this situation, and I feel like I'm just running in circles, and everybody around me is running in circles. And she's like, and I just don't see an end to it. And she's like, but I sat there and watched these horses just slowly find their peace and come to me. And she's like, I don't know why it made me so emotional, but I just felt like I saw this light, that I could find my peace. And it just goes back to what I said about I can't plan those kind of moments. They just happen, especially with the horses.
The spirit has to have whispered to her
Something.
that an end would
And
come
to relate
it.
that to her life and to be able to, again, just see the positive. Like, I don't know how I'd be feeling if I was in her situation, but she certainly saw the positive all week. But for that was just something I've never forgotten because, it's easy to get nervous around horses. I don't know if you know why horses are so special and why we use them and why a lot of people use them for therapy is because they mimic your emotions. So if you're feeling anxious or scared, then they're going to be anxious and scared. So it causes you to have to address your own feelings and say, I need to calm down because I didn't even realize I was feeling this because I want my horse to be calm, so I need to be calm. And so, it's this amazing ability they have. And so as soon as you calm down, they calm down. And so that is one thing about horses that makes them so special and so perfect for therapy is because you're able to see a mirror of your own emotions that you may not even recognize. And so that's something that's a big part of our program is riding horses. They get at least, they're with the horses almost every single day, whether it's just feeding them, petting them, riding them, tacking them, brushing them. And then by the end of the week, we do a big ride on the mountain. So they're like in God's country, seeing how beautiful it is on the back of a horse, the way we all started, way back then. And it just does something to you when you take out the technology and you take out your problems and you just on the back of a horse on a mountain.
Yeah. Here at God and Country, we love getting out into God's country, and there's no better way to do that than on the back of a horse. Those of us who have grown up with horses know there's no place on earth that makes you happier than when you're in the saddle. But you want to be able to provide and take care of those horses and do it at least expensive way possible. Horses are, as we all know, expensive enough as it is. We want to introduce you to Coro. Coro is a company that will supply you everything that you will possibly need for your horse at your stable and you yourself as a rider. We would love that you would go to our description and click on the code or the QR code that is going to be coming up on your screen and go to Coro for all the needs that you have for your horse. At Coro, you could have anything you'll need for grooming, for hoof care, for first aid, any type of therapeutic supplies, pharmaceutical supplies, or anything you'll possibly need for the stable of the horse itself, like fleeces and blankets and harnesses. Go to Coro by clicking on the link in our description or clicking on the QR code that's coming up on your screen. Please support our channel by, again, making any purchases that you need for your horse or stable at Coro. I find nothing on this planet more therapeutic than that. I'm a cowboy at heart. I grew up with that. So I grew up in the west side of Provo, out by Utah Lake. Okay. And we grew out in the fields. And so behind my house, I had my back fence, and everything behind my back fence was just horses.
Oh, wow.
Just all
the
of it,
dream.
just horses, just a dream, right? We lived in a very, very small neighborhood, and then around this neighborhood was just nothing but horses. And so I would jump the fences and go out to those fields, and then I kind of met one of the ranchers out there, and he had a show horse stallion that he'd take around to all these shows. And I started working for him. So every summer, all summer long, I'd work for this ranch out there, and he'd pay me $9-10 an hour, which was a ton of money because it was way over minimum wage back in the early 90s there and late 80s.
But that's hard work.
It was hard work, and so I grew up my whole teenagers years throwing bales. And so we'd go out in the fields, and he'd have this long trailer, and we'd have to stack the trailer full of bales. And beginning of the summer, I was a scrawny little kid that could barely get the one bale up onto the trailer, and he'd have to help me. By the end of the summer, I was throwing bales 4 stacks
overhead,
high, 5 stacks high. And then we'd have to come back and put them in the loft, and I was mucking stalls, and I mean, you name it, I was doing it. Building fences,
all the things we do around here.
Everything. You'd have to do it all. So that's what I did as a teenager. And part of that is they taught me to ride. And so I started off English saddle. I was in Western saddle, and they had a jumping arena.
Oh, cool.
jumping arena. So I was always out in the arena jumping barrels or jumping wood or something like that, and that's
Cool.
that's how I learned to ride. So I wasn't even very used to riding Western saddle even for many
Yeah,
years, because
yeah.
I was my whole teenage years I rode English saddle. So
Welcome to the better side.
there's a better side. But I know how therapeutic that was as a teenager. There's nothing I loved doing more. Even after school, sometimes I would just go out there and just saddle up a horse and just go out and ride out in the field, just because it was just
Yeah.
so therapeutic.
Yeah, I was just talking with, I went to an event where Bronco Mendenhall was there, and my son's a big football player, so, we're always just looking for camps and advice from coaches and things, and so I, of course, wanted to hear what he had to say, because he's the GOAT, and we went up to him, and that was his advice, was get him on a ranch. And I said, well, lucky for you, we have one. And yeah, he said that those are his best players, are the ones who come from some kind of a farming or ranching background. But really what he's saying is just a hard worker,
Yeah.
someone who's not afraid to do hard work all day long and go home
And it is hard work all day long.
all day long. And so,
And you're out in the sun, in the heat.
yep.
And it's
I
just what you
think
do.
about that. I like to travel the world, and I think about the mental health a lot of us have in America. It feels like it's higher in America than other places. And a lot of it comes down to, what are we doing with our time? Are we working hard? Or do we, my husband always says, like, more food, more problems. Like, sometimes we just need a little bit more of that need to survive, like a lot of other people in the real world are constantly just surviving and keeping themselves, going. Some of us have just too much time sitting around not doing anything, and so that's when your mind starts to just rot, and that's the stuff we see on
I imagine that a
television.
lot of the kids you're bringing in are just used to sitting down and
Absolutely.
just video gaming
Working
it all
the
day
thumbs.
down,
Yep.
working the thumbs.
Working the thumbs. Yep.
So, do you have any experience of teenage experiences coming in that you could share with us?
Yeah, we
What-
had a teenager who came, and he didn't have his dad. His mom was a widow, and we knew it was going to be a struggle. And his mom knew it was going to be a struggle. She told us, she said, I don't know how you're going to get him involved, but good luck. He doesn't want to be here, We love challenges like that. I said, don't you worry, we'll find something for him. And so, yeah, he was finding reasons, I have to work, I have to do this. And so finding reasons not to come to the activities. And so John has a presence about him. And so he came in and said, you're coming with me. We're going to do this. They went, and we were baling hay at the time. And so we got him in the tractor, which was the first just fun thing, riding the tractor. And then after that, he kind of started to come around a little more. Oh, do you have like some more work you need done? Or, he was interested. And so then we put him with missionary, and then it was like, hey, it's time to get your hands dirty. And so we were putting in an irrigation line. So it's like, all right, get in the ditch and start digging. And so, here I am thinking, and his mom's thinking the last thing he wants to do is hard work. And so, but he came back and he was thrilled, and he was joining our activities. He was helping with the little kids. He was a 100% different person. I don't know, it's just something about getting
Manual
your hands
labor,
dirty.
just-
It really is. And
It
I try
works
to remember
every
that
single
with my
time.
kids, because they fight me on it, but they come out better people. And so that was cool. And that really showed us how to handle that kind of situation going forward. And so that's kind of our go-to. And anytime we have teenagers or kids but like I said, I have kids who tell me the service project was their favorite. It's because it's different, and they're not used to having this accomplishment that they did something themselves, like their body, their mind, like they did it and they accomplished whatever task was at hand. And so I think, a lot of times we're just in that loop of like watching videos or playing video games, whatever it is that they're doing, and it's just constant, and like it's that monotonous, you could do it for 20 minutes and you feel exactly the same as you did 20 minutes ago. And so, yeah, finding ways to bring about that accomplishment is really helpful for those
You've
kids.
got a lot of families up there. So what other experiences have they come in with? Did they? I'm sure they've shared a lot with you. So anything you're free to share with us? The Gold Star families are coming in, right? So tell us about some of the Gold Star families you have coming in and what their experiences have been like.
Yeah, the Gold Star weeks are really special to me. Just with the circumstances around losing a spouse and left raising their children, and the grief they feel is so strong and so deep. And I really love that they're able to come together because they're so far apart from each other in the country, and so that's not something they get to do very often, is be around someone who knows what they're going through and knows the pain they feel. We had a widow once who came, and she was such a delight. She is such a delight, and she's amazing. And she talks about her grief a lot and how much she misses her husband, and it's something that stays with her. It's a part of her every single day. And I think a lot of people, I've learned, they talk about, you don't get over it, you just learn to carry it and learn to live with it. But I think in the beginning it was just heavier than she could really take. And her and her husband had a child just a couple years before he died. And so she's left with this young girl who she knows will now live without her father. And she was obsessed with her dad. I mean, she just loved him so much. And she knew what her daughter was missing out on. And that was so hard for her to comprehend. And I remember her telling us that there was just times where it just didn't feel like it was worth it anymore. And specifically, there was a time when she felt like neither of them had much of a life without him. And that is the depth of grief that a lot of people don't talk about when you lose a spouse, especially in an instance where they're taken from you without wanting to be gone or without, getting a choice and signing up for it, And so luckily she fell asleep in her grief and in that moment of deciding, how it was all going to end. And when she woke up, she said God just told her that they weren't done and that they both needed to be there. And they got the invitation to come out here just about a couple weeks later. And
where was she? What area of the country was she from?
She was in the Southwest. And so her husband had been a pilot, and she just realized that even though she wanted to be done, God wasn't done with her. And so, and that's how she describes it. And that she was meant to stay here to continue his legacy and to continue to talk about what he loved and believed in. They are big supporters of our country and our freedoms and their faith. And so that's something that she has just put everything into, and teaching their child about that.
Do you know who the contact was or how it happened to be that she got connected to you?
She was a referral from someone else.
So someone knew about you.
Someone knew, yes. We had invited a different widow, and she said, I know this other one, and I know she's going through a hard time, but she didn't know the extent of it either. And so for me, it's just...
But God knew.
God knew, and she listened, which is also half of the equation. But it also just for me was such an eye-opener for just how deep and hard things can get for these populations, and not just the widows, but also, the injuries, and dealing with those afterwards. And so it was very humbling for me to realize that when they come here, it is not just a fun week on the ranch. Like, I have got to make sure that the impact is felt the rest of their life, that they come here at a point and they have to leave at a higher point, or else what am I doing? I could just send them on a cruise if it was just about having a good time.
Right.
But they have to come here to leave better. And so that...
Did she share that story with you while she was here? Did she open up and tell you?
Yep.
Wow.
Actually, no, she told that to my father-in-law and then me afterwards. But yeah, she, and how brave of her to be so open and raw. But it was just an eye-opening experience for me to realize how serious this is. And I think I was kind of just excited in the beginning for it to be fun, but as we've transformed, it has been about the impact. And that's like all I can think about is how does every activity increase the impact that it has on them and their life and their family, and making sure that they leave here in an elevated state.
Well, I don't think the fun is minimalized either. They need to have some moments
Totally.
of joy and
Yeah.
spontaneous fun.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's always interesting to find out how hard work is fun.
Yes, true. But that's
Normally,
why
hard work is not fun.
Yeah, but that's
But it
why I
becomes
rely
fun.
on my volunteers, is because they get to implement the fun, and then my job is to think about how do I make this impactful, like making sure they're with the right. All my volunteers have their stories too, and they have the things they're going through, and so I'm pairing people up in
That's
certain
true.
ways, and anyone I have come out here, I just try and be really strategic about it. And I try to let the organic things happen, but at the same time, as a programmer, you're making sure that you're getting everything you can out of those 7 days, or 6 days really. And so
Well, you mentioned too that you had a couple come to you and say, our marriage was on the rocks. It was almost over.
yes.
So kind of elaborate on that. What did they share with what they were going through, or where you
I
left them
had
at?
one couple who later told me that her husband was an alcoholic, and I didn't know that when he was coming, which I thought she would have shared
And
with
he's
me.
the veteran, right?
He was a veteran, yep. And they had lost a child to
Veteran
cancer.
and lost a child.
And he was struggling. They were both struggling. And a lot of times when you lose a child or have a sick child, I know the marriages just suffer. I can't imagine how hard that is, but you see it. And so, yeah, I knew about a couple of things, but I don't always know about everything. And I didn't know about his struggles with addiction.
Yeah, addiction's gonna be hard. So what did she express to you? How did this save what they had?
Nothing while she was here. It was actually afterwards. We build connections a lot of times during, and then afterwards I find out more. But
Was it difficult for him to be here dry?
Probably, but I didn't know at the time.
Unless
Yeah.
he snuck some things
I
out.
think, yeah, it was one of those situations where he was constantly trying, and so it wasn't unheard of to, his health was fine. He was not in a state of
Withdrawal
or anything, no. So I think he must have just been on and off, but that was something that they had struggled with. And so, anyways, yeah, so while they were here, normally our therapists will see people individually, but I always asked, do you want to be seen as a couple? And they chose to. And so that was my first indicator that maybe there was something more going on. And yeah, then after they had left, I noticed that they did kind of, split up their time a little bit while they were here in the beginning. And then as time went on throughout the week, they started to come together. So like in the beginning, he was going and doing chores with their remaining child, and then one would stay in the room, that kind of thing. And then by the end of the week and they saw the therapist, I think 3 or 4 times. Normally it's just 1 or 2. And so I just noticed them starting to be around the fireplace, like sitting next to each other. I noticed them starting to do the chores together. And then once they went home, that's when, she contacted me and said, just so you know, I don't know if you noticed. And of course I did, but I didn't want to make her feel like it was obvious. And she said, we were pretty much ready to sign papers. It was over. We only chose this because of our son. We wanted him to have this experience. They weren't even coming out here with the thought of trying to make their marriage better. And so that was really cool to know that, again, I didn't plan it, but all the people that come in here to do different things were able to contribute in a way for what they needed. And I just loved that it just worked out that way. And they're still together to this day. And he has been sober, I think, for 3 years. And so
it's sad to see when people use that as a coping mechanism, because that's what it is. It's just a coping mechanism. And you got to get rid of all the coping mechanisms and just face it.
Right.
And it's not always alcohol. I mean, the worst case scenario is alcohol or drugs or something like that. It's very, very addictive. But a lot of people will turn to food.
Yeah.
A lot of people will turn to their work.
Yep.
And they just neglect family and everything else, and they just work 24/7 almost. A lot of women will just turn to their kids and their kids only.
Yeah.
And neglect the husband completely. My own sister was like that, because my niece committed suicide at 12 years old.
No.
And it was tough for the whole family. My sister really, really went through it. And she still struggles with it. And she attempted suicide. My sister did afterwards, because she just couldn't handle it. And we'll probably have maybe an Angel Mom podcast sometime. But
I love that.
So I understand where they're coming from to have lost a child. That is so tough. And then you have to face each other as a couple and get through that. But they have 5 other kids that they have to, and that's what really got her through it, is I've got to be there for my 5 other kids. But then she went the opposite spectrum, right, where it was all about her other 5 other kids, and I'm not going to lose another kid, and I'm going to wall myself around them, and became almost overprotective and overcautious, and they couldn't do
Start
anything.
shutting everybody and everything else out.
Just nothing that was even remotely risky.
Not good for your own mental health either.
No, not good for her mental health at all, and struggling with her husband, was a great man, and then she took years to come around. But even now, she says exactly what you says, is you don't, it doesn't get better. You just learn to
carry it.
To carry it with a little bit more emotional stability. So I imagine you've had those come through that have committed suicide. What has been some of the results of those families that have gone through a spouse that's committed suicide?
There's a lot of different emotions. Sometimes I get widows who are sad. Sometimes I get widows who are really angry at their husbands for leaving them, for taking their own life, for not getting help, for drinking, for abusing them before they died. There's so many things that can go into it. Sometimes I get widows who are take themselves to a different place and don't want to accept their new reality and are struggling to come to terms. The widows that do the best in our program, sometimes I'll get widows who, one thing I've noticed is they get this mindset of like, I'll never remarry, it'll never get better for me. I'm just going to survive until hopefully Jesus will come soon, or, I'll just get in a car wreck or something. I mean, they're pretty brutal with their words sometimes. But the ones that do the best are the ones that are like the one that saw the horses, but just are open and see that nothing in life is guaranteed, and that we just have to do the best with what we have. And I get widows who judge other widows for how they choose to live their life. And I hate seeing that, because everyone is different. Everyone gets through it their own way. And so I love it when they come and they're just open to having a good time with their kids, seeing the therapist, meeting other widows who are also open to friendships and helping each other just get through their experiences. But yeah, I see just kind of a plethora of everything. But it's funny, I actually love it, but I have widows who told me they would never get remarried, and I love getting their wedding invitations because I'm so happy for them that they were able to figure out that they can add happiness. They're still carrying their grief. They still have their love, but now they can add just another facet of life to it, and more kids, more, another husband, like another marriage, like, and I can't imagine, I'm sure it's hard. It's gotta be, but I love that they're open at least to more and not thinking that their life ended that day as well. And so
my sister's done the same thing. She's gotten into the world of foreign exchange students.
Oh, cool.
So
that's
now
really cool.
She's got several coming in from Germany. Now they're like kids to her, and they actually, after the foreign exchange, still come back.
Stay connected, absolutely.
Still come back year after year. They go camping with us because they've had so much fun with our family going camping. They'll come here just to go camping with us for the week we go up camping. There's a lot of stuff that she's gone into.
That's
so
awesome.
you've got to find that effect, right? Because what you're finding is, as people go through that, you don't know what their background is, how they were raised, what their parents were like. What their school experiences were, what their own personal experiences were, because all that plays in how you're going to react to a death.
Absolutely.
Particularly a suicide. And everybody's upbringing was different. Everybody's belief in God is different. The family strength, and some families are really, really united and strong, so they've got strong siblings and strong parents, and some families don't have the strength within their siblings and within their parents. And some of them, they only have one or two siblings that are not necessarily strong. And so all that plays into how they react to a suicide or to a death in the family. And so when you get a number of them together, all with different backgrounds, and you could talk about different parts of the country too, because the way we handle things here in the West is going to be different from the South to the Northeast. And so there's a lot of things that plays into people's decision making, and so when you get them all together, they're all from different backgrounds, you can get some of that judgmentalness because just because I didn't grow up the same way you did, or different part of the country, or it's all going to be different of what went into creating my morals and values, what created my personality, and how I react to
I would
things.
love to see that stigma go away. Like I said, those widows, and there's different names for them. Some people call them White Star. We call them Families of the Fallen. Some people call them Gold Star. But the ones whose spouses have died by suicide, I would just love to see that stigma go away where, it's not shame they're feeling. They don't feel like embarrassed to talk about how their husband died. Like, those are all realities for them right now. They may not be getting the same benefits, or having the same opportunities. And so
I've heard a lot of that too, where
it's
the
different.
government stops giving them the benefits too, because
it's
the
different.
beneficiary's gone. A lot of things are.
So
and
that's
we're
why
the ones that should be ashamed, because as we pointed out in many podcasts, there's 19 to 21 suicides a day. A day, and that's obscene in this country.
Everything they have to go through. I mean, their kids are all grieving in a different way, and mom's grieving, but mom has to take care of the grieving kids and also grieve at the same time. And so, there's so much that goes into it. So deciding to bring them out was a no-brainer, and I don't think we'll ever go back. We love that population, and I mean, I hope I run out of families before anything else. I hope I stop.
Sadly, I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
but
that would be the dream. But
how many more families do you expect this season?
So we're done for this year. School's back in, so we're all done. But we're getting ready for our gala, and then just starting the process all over again for next summer, and deciding who all's going to come out, getting everything ready. And
how far in advance do you vet which families you're going to bring in?
I start accepting applications like around November, so I kind of get through the gala and then start getting the applications in. I can't usually do the flights till 6 months before, and then just kind of figuring out. I try to always look at Utah first, just so I make sure I'm getting our home state in and getting everyone who qualifies here, and then we start reaching out and getting our referrals and everything. So if anyone is interested, we have a spot on our website where you can apply, or you can nominate another family, or you can just email at warriorrizen@gmail.com and just email me and just tell me about a family that you think would be a good fit. And like I said, we are kind of specific in that we're looking for a family. So someone that fits in those categories and has kids and are willing to come out and work hard.
So tell us some experiences about Blue, law enforcement. What are you seeing there, and
So
what are
I'm
those
not
families
as
like?
involved with the law enforcement. We have, so my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, Josh's brother, Corey, is a police officer, and he had a chief who was going to retire soon, and they were thinking about going on a mission. They were thinking about, how can we do service? And then they found out about us. They came out, they kind of saw what we were doing with the veterans, and they thought, what if we could do this with police families? And we were super open to it. We're like, absolutely. At that time, I was running all the weeks, and so I was getting a little burnt out. I'm like, I would love to, switch it up and have you guys run the police family weeks. And so that was what we did that first year, 2023 was our first year. And it's cool because he used to be a chief, so he knows that side better than anyone, and he knows those officers, and he knows all the chiefs that are in Utah, and so he's able to reach out and really ask the right questions and get them invited and out here. And so him and his wife do that on the weeks, and I just come and kind of support them. They run the same schedule and program that I created for the veterans, but they do it with the police families. And so the thing I love the most about that is that they're all Utah, so I get to see them over and over again. They are able to come back for concerts, and so even when it's not their week, they're coming back to see the other families, and they're coming back to just be on the ranch again. And they're always like, my kids were different when they were here, and this has just changed their life, and they're just so much more open now. And so I think just realizing that they don't have to hide, when they're here, and they can be open with these other police families. And so, but it was hard for me to get used to. I mean, I do a lot of the background stuff when they're here, and I remember like designing shirts, and I was so excited about their new shirts, and they were like, we're not going to wear those shirts. Like, why would we walk around with targets on our back? And I was like, I never would have had to think about that. And so that was a reality check. That's just what they're going through, and they're targets right now. And so
Which is sad.
Yeah.
I mean, we should be, when soldiers walk through an airport or anything like that, everybody stands up.
Yeah.
Everybody says thank you for your service.
Mm-hmm.
And our police should be the same way, and we don't treat them the same.
Their deployment is just here on their own home turf, and they don't get to fly home. They're just, they have to go to the store and see people that they know are not great people, and see them every day, and also be able to accept when those people do change. I mean, there's just a lot of things expected from our police officers that nobody else has to go through. So I really respect.
Well, they see the
guys
worst
in blue.
of us all the time.
The worst of us, exactly.
And
they don't get called to go get the puppies out of the sewer.
And it taints them.
Yeah.
Because then, and I wish police officers had better training in this aspect, because they should walk up to a car, up to a crime scene, and just treat everybody the same, and then, and treat everybody with respect, and have that caution to know that this could go south really fast, which all police officers know, but still treat everybody with respect. But when it ends up happening is when they see the worst out of the worst all the time, then they just treat everybody as the worst all the time. And it gives them that bad name, and some officers can get through it and some of them can't. But
I mean, they get called on domestic violences every day, and you just don't know when that's going to be the one that starts shooting at you.
Like just what happened in Tremont, and just walked up there and just started talking, and the next thing 2 officers are dead, and the third one's wounded, and plus the police dog. So just things turn on a dime. And I've seen plenty of police videos where they walk up to the car and just talking to them naturally, and I saw one where they were just talking about their kids in the car and everything like that, and I've got kids too, just joking around. Next thing you know, he's got bullets going at him. Yeah. And it's just crazy how fast things turn because of people making dumb decisions. Do you find very many fallen officers here in the state where you're?
It definitely seems like it's increased lately, and so we are kind of going through it now. We just recently had a family that they weren't from Morgan, but their family was from Morgan, so we had gotten connected with them, and he was an officer in Kaysville, and his name's Jared. I don't know if you heard about Jared, but they were slotted to be one of our families this year for the last week, and unfortunately he was diagnosed with a brain tumor earlier this year, and he ended up dying before they were able to come, and they were supposed to come, like I said, just a few weeks ago.
Have you ever looked into like Border Patrol or ICE?
That's a great question. I have, actually. So given my stepmom's connections with the border, she covered it as a reporter for a long time. She works a lot with ICE and Border Patrol, and that was one of her recommendations, was what if we got them together, the ones that work together. And so that's something that, I don't know, might be something in the works.
I know a lot of them are going through some pretty severe trauma.
Very severe trauma. I mean,
Especially
can you
the ones
imagine?
that actually work the border, because
Right.
some of the
Yes.
atrocities that
Yes.
are going on down there. I mean, I know people have gone down there and they've been the people that opened up the back of a truck and there's 20 people that are dead in it.
Yeah. Or just
Or-
watching people drown crossing the river and there's nothing they can do about it, and you have to
Or
sit there and
knowing
watch them.
kids that are coming across that have been raped
Yeah.
multiple times. I mean,
Yes.
it's
But
bad.
then the America's against you because of what they are hearing, misinformation.
Well, it seems like America, but it's really a
Yes,
minority.
yes.
But having things thrown at them, a Subway sandwich.
Yes. Yes, that is a population I would love to explore and have them out here and see what we can do for them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a brother-in-law going through the process of trying to become an ICE agent, and so that's something that I just feel really strongly about getting them involved.
So I
and-
have a brother-in-law, not even a brother-in-law. So my brother's wife's brother
Mm-hmm.
committed suicide. And he was Border Patrol and saw some pretty nasty stuff down
Yeah.
there too. So
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have an upcoming episode with ICE.
coming this next season, do you already have people or line?
I don't
that
have
you're
them
looking
yet,
at,
so we're
or-
going to be accepting applications around November. So we'll put
But
it.
you don't have a waiting list or anything else like that, because I would imagine by now you do have a waiting list.
Yes, so I do use my applications for people who didn't get in years before, and I'll reach out to see, does it work for you this summer, because they've applied and maybe didn't get in, but then,
I'm shocked you don't have like a waiting list of.
That's
Once
why we
people
need to get the
find
word.
out
I don't
about
think
it,
people
the
know
word
she's
out.
here.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
we have enough to fill, and then usually I do have to turn down around.
I would talk to Heroes Haven. We can get you in contact with Tammy Flake.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And
Love that.
she's got a waiting list a mile long
Oh, wow.
with her program up in Park City, and I guarantee that a lot of those probably come down here.
Yeah. We don't usually have a problem filling the summer, but I wouldn't say, it's 100 people long. But I will use some of my applications that didn't get in for previous years, and I usually will try and start with them and get them in, and then other people.
I'll
But
definitely get you her contact information. She's got a list a mile long. Is
I'd
what
love
she's
that.
saying, and she could help. And
yeah, and just the bigger we get, the goal is just to keep doing what we're doing, and then maybe just try adding more weeks as we are able to raise more money and doing stuff throughout the year. We're going to try and start reaching out to local law enforcement, fire departments, different things like that, and just seeing, how can we utilize the space and continue just to increase the outreach.
that's
So,
awesome. Well, I greatly appreciate being on here. The site is gorgeous out here.
we've been through sun, rain, clouds.
Well, when I drove
all
out
of-
here, I'm like, this place is beautiful.
It
No, we're
is.
doing this on site. 'Cause
Yes.
This place is gorgeous, because we could have always done it back in the studio, but
This is better.
this is so much
I
better.
agree.
So much better.
Yep.
I may love to get out here on the horses and stuff, and
Yeah.
even volunteer a couple of days myself. So
Please do. Yep.
It'd be great.
Well, I appreciate you having me and helping just spread kind of what we're doing and encouraging other people to also, do things in their own way. Service in general is just all we're really looking to do. You don't have to do anything huge. It's just, sometimes it's as easy as just asking how someone is doing, and then I always say ask again.
I
'cause you
think
don't
as
always
we're
get the
taking our
first.
country back, you're going to find more of a need of all those people, ICE agents and
Yep.
police officers who were
Yep. They're
underappreciated,
going through
having a need to come visit.
Yep.
Well, the biggest thing military people need is that camaraderie, because they come from a situation where they have a lot of brothers and they all understand each other. There's a really tight-knit group. And not only that, but they had a lot of structure, because the military is very, very, very structured. So when they come out, they don't have that close-knit group that's always there next to them, and they've also lost the structure. That's when a lot of that PTSD kicks in, and they really just don't know what to do with themselves after that, and they're trying to find something to do. And
Yep.
that's when the suicidal thoughts start coming into the brain, because they just don't have a
An
they don't have
outlet for it.
outlet,
Yeah.
or well, not just an outlet, but they don't have a purpose,
Yeah.
and they need more than just a job
Yeah.
to find purpose in life.
Yeah, I know it was a big transition for my husband to go from special forces to an office job. So luckily he, has his outlets and things, being out on the ranch and things that he does to keep that.
People just need
Keep them sane.
camaraderie. So
Yeah.
if you know the veterans, you know what you don't even have to know what they've gone through. Just
Yep. And same
they
with the
like people that are close to them, and so you can't be afraid of just really bonding with them and getting close to them, because they'll actually enjoy that. People are really afraid of, well, I don't want to impose, I don't want to get
Yeah.
too and close. I'm like, they're used to somebody sleeping in the bunk
Battle
next to
buddies.
them, or
Yeah.
the bunk above them, or always having people around, always having not just one or two, but lots of people around on base. And so
Yep.
don't be
And
afraid
same
of
with the
getting close to
wives.
them.
I can remember as a military wife, my husband deploying, and my people saying to me, like, let me know when he gets back from deployment. I'm like, what am I going to do till then? Just reaching out to those wives if you know that their husbands are gone a lot,
Don't be
involving
afraid
them.
of getting close and
Yeah.
being intrusive and
Yep.
being there too much.
Yeah, we may not want a meal or childcare. We may just want someone to come and sit on the couch and
Just say,
talk
that's
to.
what I say. I mean, people always like, it's too easy to donate money or to donate some food. What they want is, let's go fishing for the weekend, or
Yep.
let's sit on the couch and watch the game this weekend. Or
Yep,
that's what they need, is camaraderie.
I second that.
Well, greatly appreciate having being out here, because you're not out with us. so
Yes, I
being out
appreciate
here
you
in this
guys
place.
having me. Yes, it's an honor. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spreading the word. And thank you for all you guys are doing to get the word out about just all the heroes that are out helping keep God and country together.
That's for
Thank
sure.
you so much.
Yep.
Well, this is God and Country. We do have ICE coming up in an interview here in the next couple of weeks, so there'll be one of the directors here in the state of Utah. We had to do a lot to get that approved. We got notice yesterday that went all the way to Washington, D.C. to get us approved to have ICE on the podcast. So look forward to that. We'll kind of discuss what's going on with immigration, what's going on with them, and we'll talk to everybody next week.
I know.
Ranch.